Hello, this is the intro to my guide for backline healing cleric. This is not frontline, nor is this damage cleric or anything. This is pocket heal cleric guide. Alright, if you're here for something else, I'm sorry, but this is a healing backline pocket cleric guide. I'm just gonna pop in real quick at the beginning here to kind of show you just my credentials and where I'm standing right now, and showing you that I'm not some kind of silver just talking my ass. So right now I'm sitting at rank 26 on the leaderboard. I should be demigod by now, but I play around with a bunch of people. I kind of fuck around sometimes. I don't always wear bis, so I should be there within the next few days, maybe when this video is out. But I just finished cooking the video, and I won't keep you guys waiting any longer. So if you have any questions about anything I brought up in the guide, or disagree, or want to have a discussion about anything, just let me know in the comments. And thank you. Alright, enjoy the guide. Bye-bye. Alright, so for your cleric gear, for your headpiece, you're going to want a Hound Skull. It has pretty good projectile damage reduction, which, as cleric, your main threats are anyone ranged and rogues. So projectile damage reduction works against wizards and rangers. Also, I like the Vigor base stat on the Hound Skull. Pretty nice. For your shirt, if you can afford it, you're going to want to wear a golden robe. It has high magic resist, a decent armor rating, only -5 move speed, and 3 vigor. Like, personally, for me, this is the best cleric shirt in the game to wear. If you can't wear that, wear Templar. For your cloak, you're going to want to wear a golden cloak for the +3 all, because like the value on that's just insane. If you can't wear that, get a will or knowledge cloak, that'll be fine. For your gloves, you're going to want demon grips because of the magical healing base stat that comes on them. You can't get magical healing on gloves other than the demon grips. For your pants, you're going to want demon clads because of the magical healing base stat as well. If you can't get the demon clads or demon grips, you can wear rivetives or reinforced for your gloves, or for your pants, you can wear the heavy leathers. For your shoes, it's kind of a toss-up. You can wear whatever, but for me personally, I like wearing the plate boots because of the projectile damage reduction and the strength. Like, you can wear other stuff as well, but for me it's the plate. The reason we are deciding to wear plate gear as a backline cleric is that as a backline cleric, a threat that you will be encountering a lot is people trying to kill you, obviously, because you are the backline cleric, right? You're the team's heals. If you die, the team dies. So making sure you have armor, projectile damage reduction, vigor, plate, whatever, right? It allows you to be more self-defensive, because like if you're in full cloth with like a chaperone or oracle robe or what the fuck ever, right? You're literally gonna die in 3 swings to fucking repose. Like, it kind of is what it is. That's why you put on plate, right? So you're a bit tankier and that you can fight. And so that if your frontline dies, you can tap in with them with Smite, Judgment, whatever. Before I go on any further, we need to talk about how stats work. Here's some equations for some stats you may build, and here's the respective scalings for each equation. Notice how when at a certain threshold, you begin to gain less of that stat. Be sure you are getting the maximum amount of value out of your stats and not to overbuild. I will link the wiki in the description. The most important stat you're going to want to look at is magic power. So in the most recent hotfix, they changed the scaling with magic power and magic power bonus. So you're going to want about 50 magic power, because past 50 you'll be getting only half of what you were getting from 40 to 50. So aim around 50 magic power, 40 to 50, and you should be fine. Honestly, as cleric, you can wear any kind of jewelry. Max HP, will, knowledge, strength, vigor, all work fine. But for me personally, I would have priority over the max HP necklaces and the Fangs of Death or the Torque of Soul necklaces. For rings, I would do personally vigor or will based on how much magic power you're at. Or if you're running Earthquake, since they nerfed Prot, you're going to want maybe some knowledge rings, or maybe even some knowledge or memcap on your necklace. Alright, so if you don't know what enchantments are the random things you get on your gear. So like knowledge roll, will roll, max HP roll, etc. Alright, so there are many different enchantments, right? So many. I'm just going to pick a few that I really like, and I'm going to tell you why I like them and their implications in backline cleric build. For my first favorite enchantment, I'm going to combine them all together. Will, magical power, and magical damage bonus. That's probably my favorite stat to have as a backline cleric. The reason being is that those 3 stats, yes, and magical damage bonus, increase how much magic power you have. So we know will gives you magic power, Magic power gives you magic power, but magical damage bonus actually increases your magic power percent by that amount. So let's say you're at 60% magic power from all of your magic power. If you have a 5% magical damage bonus, it would increase it to 65%. So remember back at when I was talking about how like, oh, at 50, you'll only be getting 0.5% per 1 magic power? Right, so the strat is you get to those bad returns, right, the 0.5%, then you juice up on magical damage bonus so that, because it's a true amount, it's a flat amount, like 5% is 5%, they're not going to reduce it to 0.5%, right? You can maximize your magical power, in turn maximizing your heals. My next favorite stats to build are a bit more defensive. I love max HP, projectile damage reduction, and magic resist. The reason for those 3 stats is that max HP just overall is going to help you survive just damage, right? It's like, imagine if you have 90 HP as a cleric, it's fucked. At 160 HP, you're literally Giga Chad, like you are tanky as hell. Projectile damage reduction is really hard to come across. You can get it on jewelry and I think some pieces of gear. You only get projectile damage reduction naturally through like plate. So having that just like extra, the already like a very hard stat to come across, is very nice. And the reason that I want to build it is because it's good for wizards and good for rangers. Please mistake me if I'm, or correct me if I'm mistaken. Wizards with projectile damage reduction, it like blocks some of the damage. Now, magic resist, the last stat I like building, is nice because the same thing with projectile damage reduction, magic resist is something hard to come across. And wizards are kind of meta right now in my opinion, they're very good. You're going to be encountering a lot of them. It's nice to have that magic resist that's hard to come across on your gear. The reason I don't really recommend armor rating that much, I mean, I would still build armor rating if it's like on a piece of jewelry. It's not like I'm not going to wear it if it has armor rating. It's a good stat. I like it. But the main reason is because I recommend a hound skull and plate boots to wear as a cleric. And not to mention, when you have your shield out, you're going to get the armor rating from that shield added onto your overall armor. So having extra armor rating on top of the armor rating is alright. It's not bad. I like it. It's up there, but not as much as projectile damage reduction and magic resist is, and max HP. Alright, and for my last stat, and the most important, magical healing. If you're going to go in a very good kit, you're going to want max magical healing rolls on your book, on your necklace, on your rings, and on your chest piece. Those are the only pieces of gear that you can get magical healing roll on naturally. Now, you can get it on your neck, sorry, not neck, pants and gloves, but you must craft the demon grips and demon clads for that, and that costs money. So I would say the demon grips and demon clads for like a biscuit. For very good kits, just run the items I mentioned with max magical healing rolls. And I'll say it again, 3 on the chest, 2 on the rings, 3 on the necklace, and then 3 on the spellbook. Alright, and for your weapons, as cleric, we're going to start with the book. You want to run a spellbook because a magical staff will not do anything for your healing. As we saw per before in the stats section of the video, healing is not affected by magical damage. It is affected by magical power and magical healing. With that in mind, you're going to want to run a spellbook because it's easier to heal with a spellbook and not a magical staff. Now for your shield, if you're a really good player, I would run the buckler. The reason being is that the buckler gives you more movement speed compared to the heater shield, but it is harder to block with obviously because it's a buckler. So if you're a really good player, run the buckler. If you're alright, you know, maybe not the best, bring a heater shield just to be safe. I mean, it does give you a tiny bit more armor, but the trade-off for armor and move speed is, it's not the best. So for your weapon, I would run a Divine Rod because remember, you're playing backline cleric, you're not frontline. So the Divine Rod will allow you to clear mobs quicker for your team because of the undead damage bonus. In all other situations, honestly, Morningstar, it has more damage than the, what is it, the Flange? Yeah, Flange Mace. Yeah. So we're going to talk about skills now. So for Cleric, I would say about 85 to 90% of all clerics should run Holy Fury. The reason being is that a lot of the people that play this game, they have trouble with PvE, and that's fine. Like, the PvE is difficult. It takes a while to understand and learn how PvE works. Holy Fury makes Lich easier, it makes Bats easier on Ghost King, it allows you to do Warlord, it allows you to move quicker throughout the map, and even for like high level clerics, like Holy Fury is fine because, yeah, if you're in Abyss kit, you can clear PvE like nothing, but it allows you to move quicker. Moving quicker in high level lobbies is so important because it allows you to take space that is valuable, like Pyramid, for example, like Church, like all that space is very like strong space to hold and control. So that's why I'd recommend Holy Fury for most clerics. Now, if you are a bit of a more advanced cleric, you understand how to position yourself between backline and frontline, I would recommend taking Smite. Now, a lot of traps that clerics that do backline get caught up in is they use Smite too much. They go too much melee. Think about it. With what I told you to build in this guide, you're going to want to build magical healing, magic power, all that stuff. You are building to heal and be backline. You're not building to be melee. But with how strong Smite is and its short cooldown and its effects from your magic power and maybe some magic damage you might have, Smite is just so good. Like it's just like 15 damage on each swing. You know, it's magic damage. You can get multiple swings off. It allows you to defend yourself, peel yourself from rogues. Because think about it, Holy Fury doesn't really help you in PvP situations, which is going to be like life or death, right? You need skills catered towards PvP because PvE, chances are, isn't really going to be a big problem. But like I said, Holy Fury can help you in the PvP sense for getting space. But Smite, it just allows you to peel yourself so much. You can defend yourself, you can kill fucking rogues on you with Smite, all that good stuff. So I'm all for Smite, but you just have to understand the balance between healing and smiting, because bringing Smite can be such a big trap for clerics as they can get caught up in the sauce and they can just start smacking people and forget that they're like a frontline's dying, you know? Alright, and now for perks. This is going to be mainly for trios. Like, this guide is kind of just centered around trios. If you want advice on duos, solos, let me know in the comments. But for trios, the perks you're going to want to run are Perseverance, Holy Aura, Requiem, and Advanced Healer. We're only taking Requiem if you're bringing Res, and I recommend for you to bring Res in every single comp you run, but if there's for some reason that you're not, it's a toss-up between Blunt Weapon and Kindness. If you're full committing the black backline, bring Kindness. This is for backline cleric trios. The only perk I could see you swap is Requiem, and that would maybe be for Kindness or Blunt Weapon Mastery. I do not like Undead Slaying, I do not like Brewmaster, and I do not like Protection from Evil. We'll talk about why I don't like those later, but for now, let's go through the perks. So, Advanced Healer, you get 5 magical healing. Like, this is insane, right? You can't even get 5 magical healing on some pieces of gear. The most you can get is 3. So having a perk that gives you 5, that is insane. Magical healing is already kind of a hard stat to come across. And if you don't have this perk and you're trying to out-heal an enemy cleric, you're going to get fucked. And their team's going to live a lot longer than yours. Perseverance, I really like because remember how I always talk about these counters, rogues, rangers, wizards? Perseverance is amazing for rogues because, you know what, rogues do a lot of fast attacks, right? Like, they don't do, like, I mean, they can 100 damage swings. They can, though, yeah, they can. But, like, the idea is with rogue, like, they stab you a lot and they're hitting you much more than what a fighter will. So Perseverance in turn counters better because it's blocking 3 damage each from like 10 hits compared to 3 damage from 1 hit. Now, 3 flat damage reduction is still even good if you're getting hit once. Like, it's an overall amazing perk. Like, if you're getting hit for 100, this would take away 3. That's basically 3% PDR. And it scales with the lesser damage. So if you're getting hit 30 damage and this takes away 3, it's a 10% damage reduction. That's 10% PDR value. And it works for MR. It says all types of incoming damage. Holy Aura, I think, is amazing, especially if your comp is really squishy. Like, if you have a wizard and ranger, Holy Aura gets so much value because those classes will inherently have less armor and magic resist, so the value that they get from 15 armor is way more value than what a fighter will get. In addition, the overall value you're getting from this item or this perk is for all of your teammates 15 times 3, which, if I'm not horrible at math, I believe is 45 armor and 45 magic resist. Please fucking flame me if my math is wrong. 45 armor and magic resist on a perk is insane value. I mean, even on yourself, just having 15 armor and 15 MR, that's like amazing value. I mean, the blunt weapon mastery can be more valuable than that, 10% physical damage bonus, but we're playing backline cleric, right? You're not doing frontline. So having the defensive stats as a backline cleric is really useful. Now, Requiem is the only perk that I think can be swapped. The reason I run it is because there's a lot of situations that we encounter as a team where I have to res my downed player and we gotta go. Like, I might not have a heal to afford. They might not have heals. They might not have a surgical kit. We might be getting chased by a team. Like, Requiem allows for in the moment, like an in the moment clutch, because you're rezzing, and it like provides a safe. It's a safe perk basically. In my opinion, it's a very safe perk to take. If you want to be a bit more risky and get some more value, you can take blunt weapon and take a more frontline attack damage approach with smite. But I would take kindness, honestly, if I wasn't taking Requiem. Let's talk about the 3 other perks I didn't like taking. Start with Brewmaster. Brewmaster, like, it's kind of, I mean, sure, like, if you can't handle the drunk effect when you drink alcohol, it's a great perk, but, like, it's not bad. Like, getting drunk in Dark and Darker, the effect is not that bad. Undead Sling, I guess if, like, you're having trouble with PvE, it can be good, but, like, you might as well take Blunt Weapon Mastery at that point, because you get 10% physical damage bonus with Blunt Weapon Mastery. With Undead Slaying, you get 20%. So, like, you might as well just take Blunt Weapon and have, like, 10% against everyone. Protection from Evil. I know this is a perk that some clerics, like, really like taking. But for me personally, the only debuffs I see you kind of getting rid of from this is, like, Rogue Poison, slows from attacks, curses from Warlocks, and I guess maybe Fire Mask, like, fire from mages, like the fire dot or whatever. I mean, I would much rather have like kindness or blunt weapon or requiem over this, because I'm sure as damn hell not changing magical healing perk, advanced healer, perseverance, or holy aura. It would be requiem that I'd swap out for that, and I am not, like, requiem does not even come close to the value that I get from that. There's just not a lot of debuffs in the game. Like, I don't know. And 50%, like, these debuffs are, like, lasting usually for, like, a second. So, like, it takes off 0.5 of a second. I mean, if you value that a lot, sure. But for me, in my opinion, I just don't think it's that good value. There's not a lot of debuffs in this game yet.
Alright, so we're going to transition to spells now. So, there's 4 spells as a backline cleric, right? Not a frontline, not a damage cleric, backline healing cleric, that you're going to want to take no matter what composition you're running. It's going to be Lesser Heal, Holy Light, Resurrection, and Sanctuary. You're going to want to take Lesser Heal because it is one of the only heals that you can heal yourself with besides Sank. I would save Lessers for yourself, but not too, like, conservatively. Like, if your team's dying and they need heals, yeah, use Lesser. Try to use a Holy Light if you can. I understand the cast speed for Holy Light and Lesser are much different, and it can be more tempting to use Lesser Heal, but if you're all out of Lesser Heals and you only have Holy Lights and Sanks and you're getting shot or stabbed or whatever, you need Lessers. Like, they're the quickest heal to apply on yourself, and they're going to do a shit ton of healing with all the magic power, magic healing will you have. So it's okay to use Lessers on your team. It's completely fine. I do it all the time. But just try to have that mindset where it's like, okay, at least let's save 1 Lesser for myself. And then if you have no heals in general, right, and you have 1 last heal and your team's dying, yeah, fucking send a Lesser on your team. That's fine. Holy Light is just a bigger Lesser heal, but you can't use it on yourself. You can use it on undead targets, but we're probably not going to be doing that much unless, like, it's some kind of dire situation and you're getting chased down by Thanos with 1 HP. Yeah, you can use Holy Light. That's fine. Res is just an overall great spell. There will be a lot of times where you might not have access to a Res Shrine. It goes great with the Requiem, of course, because it allows you to res your teammates out of zone. I understand that you can use a Lesser on your teammate when they're getting up from res if they're out of zone to keep them up, but you might not always have that Lesser. You might be getting chased by a team. There might not be time to heal them, right? There might not be a lot of time for anything. So getting them up with that 50% HP is nice. It's very nice. Sanctuary, it can be a hit or miss sometimes. Sanctuary is amazing, like if you're getting chased by PvE and you need to clear the PvE quick, or you're trying to get to a portal, you can like sank all the PvE or sank your team or whatever. It allows for such like nice resets. Like let's say your team just finished a fight, you sank, campfire, it's so nice and clean. It doesn't take any of the lessers or holy lights out of your spell slots. It doesn't use any. It's just like one sank for a nice reset. And because you build so much magic power and will, like your team can go like from half or even a quarter to full with sank here. It's just an overall a great spell. Sometimes you have to make a judgment where like, okay, I might sank here, but it might heal the enemy team. Now, if your front line is fighting and you have no lessers or holy lights and they're like 1 HP and you have a sank, dude. Like, I understand it might keep the enemy up, but like if your fighter's gonna die unless you sank, you need to sank. Like you just need to keep your team up. So like you sometimes have to make those hard call judgments. You could even make the assessment where like, okay, there'll be one of the enemies in the sank, but 3 of us who could recover HP will be in the sank. You gain more value from the sank. You still win the trade, right? Because if one of them is getting healed 50 HP, and then your team each is missing 50 HP, and they all get healed 50 HP, you gained 150 HP while they gained 50. So you did give them something, but still out of that trade, you gained 100 HP. It's kind of like just these situations you have to think about when you're using Sank. It's a very fun spell to use because you can get very creative with it. Yeah, it's just a great heal. Now, these are the 4 spells that I would always recommend you to take, and this last spell here, it can vary. We don't take protection here anymore. We would if it wasn't nerfed. What happened in the nerf was, let's say you drink a protection potion, and then your cleric applies protection on you. You could put a protection spell on that player, and they would both work. Now, post-hotfix, post-patch, if they drink a protection potion and you apply a protection, it overrides their protection potion. The 2 of them don't stack anymore. So, unless your team is severely under-geared and they don't have protection potions, you're not taking prot. Now, if they do not have protection potions, if they're missing all their protection potions, take prot. Yes, take prot. Prot would be your 5th slot no matter what here, if your team does not have protection potions. Now, if they do have protection potions and you guys are going full bis, now we got to think a bit here. So, Bless is an alright option. 3 strength, I think it's about 3% physical power, 3 phys power, and like 3 HP. 3 agi is like move speed, and will is like MR. Bless is alright. I haven't really experimented it with that much. There's just like better spells you can take. For example, I would only recommend this spell if you're running double frontline, so like Barbarian Fighter or Fighter Bard. Holy Strike. It allows you to have this kind of playstyle as a wizard where you have this train going on and you're in the back of the train and you can just Holy Strike the fucking people that the fighter is fighting as they're fighting them. It's a really nice spell. It scales well with how much magic power you build, and it gives your team some range, because if you're playing double frontline, chances are you're not going to want to take Earthquake. Divine Strike is usable, and Bind is also usable, but Holy Strike just gives you that range that your team doesn't have. This will always be the spell I take in double frontline comp. Now, if you're not running double frontline, man, there are so many spells you can take. You could take Divine Strike, you could take Bind, or you could take Earthquake. I've been kind of experimenting a bit with Divine Strike in Fighter, Ranger, or I wouldn't take this in Fighter Wizard because only 1% of your team gains value from this spell. So this would be only something I would consider taking in a Fighter, Ranger, Cleric composition. Bind works in both of those compositions. It's a pretty interesting spell. It doesn't really bind them for that long. I don't think it's that good because they need to buff the duration of the bind. In addition, they need to reduce the cost of this spell. It's too long to regenerate it, and it just doesn't work that well. It doesn't like keep them stuck for that long. So I would not take bind, but it is an option. Now, the option that I probably would recommend to everybody in a Fighter, Ranger, Fighter, Wizard comp, or frontline, backline comp is Earthquake. Yes, it prevents your fighter from getting on to the enemy, but that's why we don't run this in double frontline. Luckily, in the comp that you're running, frontline, backline, Cleric, Earthquake allows your Ranger or Wizard to just have free damage on like any frontline that overextends. And you can kind of mix match it with Sank. You can bait them out with Sank, like you're holding on Earthquake, and just kind of creates a fear factor. It does some decent damage, honestly, to the front line, not that much, but this spell, the reason it's so good is because there's not a lot of counterplay to it. I mean, you can bait out their earthquakes, but if they are in range of your earthquake and you earthquake, there's nothing they can do. They either have to stand still and accept the trade, as in they take damage, or they walk through it and take damage. There's no winning with earthquake. The denial of space in Dark and Darker, when the space is already limited, when you're in these corridors, hallways, choke points, all that, just makes Earthquake an overall amazing spell. Earthquake does lose value in Ruins because it's much more open, but in Crypts, Earthquake is like king because there's so much of these corridors, choke points, etc. But a problem that you must consider when I run Earthquake is that Earthquake requires a lot of knowledge to build with the other spells, right? So you're going to be sacrificing a lot of this max HP, a lot of this will, a lot of this vigor, a lot of this magic power, etc., all to get knowledge, which really sucks. I hate it. I hate building Earthquake. I wish I could just build a prot, but it kind of is what it is. We adapt around the meta. So with biscuits though, like absolute bisc gold cape kits, you should have no problem getting Earthquake as long as you have some knowledge. Just make sure that you kind of consider all of these options. Most of these options for your last spells cleric are viable, but to end it off, my top 2 recommendations are if you're running double frontline, Holy Strike is a must. If you're running fighter, ranger, cleric comp, Divine Strike can be good, but I'd recommend Earthquake. And all other comps that aren't the 2 I mentioned, probably run Earthquake. Alright, so we've gone over a lot. We've gone over so many things. All of the information that I provided you should give you some kind of advantage, a boost, something to your cleric gameplay in Dark and Darker. So from here on out, I'm just going to speak for like a minute or 2 freely on some micro and macro to implement in your cleric gameplay. There is one more thing that I can talk about, but I would like to save that for a separate video. You might know what it is, and that is my crippling bottle addiction or lantern addiction. I fucking gobble these up as cleric. I have characters full of them, which you should see in a screenshot here in a second. So many characters full of them. I use them whenever I'm running biscuits, even normal kits. For some reason, I got out of the habit of using them because when my push to Demigod, I need to collect so much treasure. I end up dropping these bottles as a consequence, and it's so stupid. Like, I take the bottles and they just drop them. But we'll talk about why I love those later. For now, let's talk about some macro and micro. Like, I got a few things. So, as cleric, you are in the back, right? When you're walking through doors, I'm going to speak in a traditional sense. If you're running double frontline, you probably want to be in between your 2 front lines, so fighter in front, barbarian in back, you in the middle, because you're the squishy one, right? You're the one that should be scared of rogues and shit. If you're running fighter, ranger, cleric, or fighter, wizard, cleric, you want to position yourself behind the ranger and the wizard so that, you know, like in the movies, they can't get fucking pulled away by some rogue into the abyss, or that if a rogue does somehow get in between all of you, 3 of you, you can just fucking kill him with the fighter instantaneously. Having the ranger in the back can be pretty bad sometimes. Also, you want to consider that being in the back, you can see everything that's happening. You need to communicate with your team what you see, what's happening, what you hear, where you should path, why you should path that way, etc. You can make the calls because you see the situation more clearly. You see everyone's HP. You see the hits your fighter makes onto the front line. You see your hits that the wizard makes onto the front line or back line. You see everything. So having good game sense as a backline cleric is so important because you're like in this position where it's like you're the commander when the fucking armies are fighting, and you can kind of just see everything. So like call out, like be communicative, like hey, their fighter is really low, target the fighter, like double fucking focus the fighter, and your ranger, fighter, whatever will burst down the fighter because you saw that he's low from all these hits your fighter was doing on him. Or like hey, come back for a heal, you guys are low. They might not see that because those guys are lost in the sauce. You know, they can get tunnel visioned and forget how much HP they have. Call them back, you know, hey, if you hear someone on the east side and you're going to a team on the north, that's a pincer situation. Be like, hey guys, let's back up a bit. We're going to get pincered. If we win this fight, it doesn't fucking matter because we got the boys fucking pincering us from behind. And call them back, you know? Just practice your game knowledge. I stream a lot on Twitch, so you'll be able to see these decisions and macro and all this stuff, these small things I do, and you can take notice, you know, incorporate into your gameplay, hopefully, and all that good stuff. So that's some advice I have, just general advice as cleric. Besides that, if you have any questions
about anything, if you disagree about anything I said, if you'd like to have a discussion, feel free to. But I feel very confident in all this information I gave you. I'm very confident in my abilities as a backline cleric, micro, macro, whatever it is. I feel like I'm probably one of the best clerics in this game. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out, DM me, come to my Twitch, whatever. All right. Thank you guys. Goodbye.